is Sunday. It is the end of the first week in December. And I am just going to check to make sure the sound is working on my end, so I don't end up just chatting for the sake of it. And then I'm going to waffle. There we go, won't be a second. There we go. We're working. We're up and running. Brilliant. One of my nightmares is starting a podcast, doing a YouTube live for like an hour or an hour and a half. And where's the camera? See, for anybody who's wondering what the frick's going on, why I'm not even looking at you, it's because I'm using an iPad. And where's the camera? The camera is here. So the camera's there. But the problem is, maybe I should just look at the where the camera is. I need to put a little face, like a little Lego figure or something. Oh, we got something. I'm going to put this little gentleman here, down here, and I'm just going to talk at him. And I'm also going to keep an eye on the chat window. So there was no co-hosts this week. Stu Miller, John Fouts, Chris, etc. I'm guessing are all busy, but that means that in December there will be several shows coming at you as we start to get into the end of the year podcasts, so they're always fun. To avoid the eye contact thing on this iPad, because I'm still not quite used to it yet, I'm just going to generally not look at anybody other than the chat room. So what I'm here to do today is just give you a bit of a catch up on a whole bunch of stuff, what I've watched, what I haven't watched, what I've been doing, what I've been playing, life in general, blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. This episode is being brought to you on Spotify, on whatever audio podcast app you listen to. I have not been bought up by Netflix, contrary to rumours. However, we are in negotiations. I'm just kidding. No chance. Well, I'll say no chance. If they offered me an absolute truck full of money, I'd probably go, I'm now a Netflix podcast. It's been a weird week. Just dropped a piece of paper. That's brilliant. So this is just going to be a very choppy, all over the place. I have just watched a bunch of stuff. There's a whole, being a podcaster or running a website at the end of the year is kind of chaotic, because you start to piece together your top 10 lists, your favorite films. Stu Miller does his worst films as well. I generally don't go down that route. There are some films that let me down, but I don't like labeling a film as worst. So I don't tend to do those. I have things like best TV show of the year, best new TV show of the year, best existing TV show of the year, favorite video game that I've played, which is a short list to be fair, favorite movie score, favorite movies, best performances, best director, all that type of stuff. Highlight of the year, which unfortunately this year is a short list again. I kind of hoped that this year would be a better year than last year, but guess what? It was just not, for different reasons, but also very similar reasons. So there's a whole bunch of films that have come out this year that I do want to watch, but I haven't managed to watch yet. Tron Ares, I really do want to watch. I don't care if people say it sucks. I'm not bothered. People said Tron Legacy sucked, and I really like Tron Legacy, so, whatever. I like that one. One battle after another I also want to watch, but I have not yet seen. I pondered watching Minecraft and Lilo and Stitch, but I'm not the target audience for those, so I've sort of put them a bit further down the line. I may watch them at some point. How to Train Your Dragon, again, I haven't seen. There is just a lot of films coming out each year, and I kind of like to watch what I like to watch. Stu Miller, for example, he loves to watch all the new films. He will watch pretty much every new film that he can, even if he knows he's not going to like it, which I do find strange, but each to their own. I gave up trying to keep up with the new films years and years ago. It doesn't happen. It's impossible. There are other things I'd like to do. So I tend to just bounce around. So sometimes I'll watch a new film, and then the next day I'll watch something from the 1980s or the 1950s or the 1960s or whatever. And it's been that sort of week this week. So I'm going to bring up my list of things that I have watched. So I don't know if I talked about watching Being Eddie, the Eddie Murphy documentary on Netflix. I don't know if I mentioned that in the last episode. But earlier on in the year, I'd seen the two-part Charlie Sheen one, I, Charlie Sheen, and I really like that. That was, warts and all, tells everything, sort of two-part documentary. I really like that. And I was hoping the Eddie Murphy one would be kind of like that as well, but it sort of wasn't. I mean, it was interesting, but it felt very press kit-ish. So if you're going into that expecting to learn tons about Beverly Hills Cop or Beverly Hills Cop 2, which barely got mentioned, as far as I remember, there was no mention of Beverly Hills Cop 3, but I get why. We did get little stories about Vampire in Brooklyn and not even so much about Dreamgirls. So it's sort of, I mean, Eddie Murphy's had one hell of a career that spans lots and lots of movies, but you could have spun that out into like a 3-hour documentary rather than like a 100-minute one. So it was a little bit, I'm not going to say it was a letdown, but it just wasn't as good as I hoped. So I guess I can in fact call it a letdown. Now, if you want really, really good documentaries and you have access to Apple TV or Apple Plus, whatever they call themselves nowadays, I think it's just Apple TV, then check out Mr. Scorsese, which is I'm going to say that Neil Johnson recommended it to me, but I was aware of this documentary before Neil mentioned it because he was watching it. But Neil gave it a thumbs up. I've signed up for a 6-month special offer with Apple TV, so I'm getting it for £4.99 a month. So it's half price, and that is more than enough time for me to catch up on any of the Apple stuff that I need to catch up on. So next time I speak with the wonderful John Fouts, who is a big advocate of Apple TV, I will be sitting there with a notepad and pen, and I will be taking some recommendations of shows to watch on Apple. I've had Apple before, so I've seen Ted Lasso, I've seen Shrinking. I started off watching Silo, but then kind of stopped watching that one. Shrinking I've seen. I've seen some of the movies. I've seen the Tom Hanks ones, Greyhound and Mr. Finch. But there's a few things on there like The Lost Bus, which I know Robert Dyer recommended to me. Presumed Innocent I do want to watch. So there's a few things I've already got bookmarked on there to watch, but I know that John Fouts will have an even longer list of things for me to watch on Apple TV. I am also letting my Disney Plus subscription lapse because I was on a £3.49 for 4 months on Disney. That is, I think that's also half price or more or less half price. That lapses on the 14th of January, so we've got until the 14th of January to catch up on some of the Disney stuff that we're watching before that lapses. We're in the process, and we started this I think last year or maybe even the year before, working our way through the Disney Classics range. So we went online, we found a complete list of all the Disney classic movies, the animated stuff, and we started with Snow White, and we're working our way through. The film that we're going to be watching this afternoon is from the 90s, and it's Hercules, which I have seen before. Don't remember too much about it, but it's Disney, so it's not going to be overcomplicated. And the one we watched last week was The Hunchback of Notre Dame, with Demi Moore doing the voice of Esmeralda in that. I enjoy Hunchback. You look at it through 21st century eyes, and you're like, can't see that film getting made nowadays, because it's just wall-to-wall misogyny, and let's pick on somebody because of the way they look and all that type of stuff. So I mean, that is the story of Hunchback of Notre Dame, but you watch it and you're like, oof, you people would get mad nowadays with that. But then again, the internet gets mad with everything, so that's the new norm, innit? I haven't started watching Alien Earth. I don't know if I'm not bothered about watching it for some reason. I've heard some of it's good, some of it's not. But I just haven't had any inclination to go, right now I'm going to sit down and binge watch this. I much enjoyed more this week sitting down and watching the full 5 episodes of Mr. Scorsese on Apple TV, which is a documentary by Rebecca Miller, where the sort of basic of it is that she sits down with Martin Scorsese and she's chatting to him about his life. There are also interviews with Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Irwin Winkler, Elizabeth Rossellini. So the whole Daniel Day-Lewis is in there. Fascinating documentary. I knew quite a lot about Martin Scorsese anyway. I think the first Martin Scorsese film I saw early 80s was probably Taxi Driver, maybe Raging Bull. I then went back and watched Mean Streets, which I hated, but the reason I hated it, I think, was not because of the film. It was just because the VHS print I watched was terrible. It looked like a camcorder job. It was absolutely awful. And so I've never actually gone back and revisited Mean Streets. I should, because watching the clips of this film in the Mr. Scorsese documentary just was really, really fascinating. I'm like, you know what, I kind of need to go back and rewatch Mean Streets. I was quite surprised how many Scorsese films I haven't seen. I've seen most of them, but it's like I haven't seen Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, which I thought I had, but I hadn't. I haven't seen New York, New York. I think I've only seen After Hours once. And Kundun I've seen. The Last Waltz I haven't seen. I've never seen Woodstock. So there was a whole bunch, mainly a lot of his earlier stuff I hadn't watched. I'd seen Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Casino, Goodfellas, all that sort of stuff. And what sort of surprised me as well is the amount of films that come up in this documentary where you're like, oh crap, I'd forgotten about that film. So for example, it gets right through the Last Temptation of Christ sort of time period. And then you're like, what else did he do? Well, I know he did Goodfellas in 1990, and then what did he do? And it brings Nicolas Cage comes up on screen, and it's Bringing Out the Dead. I'm like, oh crap, I forgot that was a Scorsese film. I'd seen the film, and I enjoyed the film, bit grim, but I wasn't, when you think Martin Scorsese, you don't think Bringing Out the Dead, or I don't. Age of Innocence, forgot about that one as well. The weird thing about the Scorsese documentary is no mention of this film Hugo. It just doesn't get mentioned. Maybe you sort of see a poster or something in a corridor at some point, but they don't tend to go into the depths of Hugo. They do talk about The Aviator. And the documentary sort of spans Scorsese as a kid. Now that's fascinating stuff, to find out how he ended up becoming a filmmaker. It talks about all his drug abuse, and he doesn't shy away from admitting that at some point he was a bit of a plank towards people. And it goes all the way up to the sort of post-production on Killers of the Flower Moon. So it's a new documentary, it's only dropped in the past few weeks, but it's really fascinating. And it also, each episode ends on a cliffhanger. So I started watching the first episode, I'm like, I'm just going to watch the first one, and I enjoyed it. And then it sort of ends on a freeze frame, and you're like, and then he met this guy, and it's like De Niro. You're like, ooh, De Niro time, brilliant. And so it makes you want to go watch the next one straight away. I burned through the 5 episodes in like 2-3 days, I think, which for me is quite a good speed to watch stuff. So if you are fascinated by old Hollywood, and I am, and this sort of 60s, 70s, 80s type Hollywood, not all this merger crap that's going on now, and I will get onto the whole Netflix Warner Brothers thing and my thoughts in this conversation, then do check out Mr. Scorsese. I loved it. I'm a real sucker for these what do you call them, these biography documentaries and things like that. The longer the better. I love them. I could sit and watch those all day long. I was playing around with my camera as well to try and make it so it's showing the correct image, because apparently in the iPad, the front camera, there is an option to say mirror image. Now last week I had the mirror image setting on, and it mirrored the image, and it didn't mirror it, it made it look the wrong way around. So I went in this morning and I changed the setting to off, and it's still doing it. So who knows? I don't know how to make my camera show the wrong way, show the right way, I should say. The only other option I've got is doing these videos not live, but I kind of like doing them live because there's no editing. So if anybody's wondering why all the writing's backwards, it's because I can't work out how to get the camera to show the right flaming thing, which makes it really awkward when I'm showing you off things that I'm going to do. I did have a plan to show off some of the books behind me, because what you see there is, if you look at that shelf there, and then you look at it all the way along, those are the books that I own, but I have not read. So one of my plans for next year, and I've already started this plan this year, is to read more. So at the minute, I am reading The Sonny Boy by Al Pacino. I'm not going to show you the title because it's the wrong way around, isn't it? But maybe I should get like a little mirror and just do fancy camera angles. But I started this last year because Annette gave it me for Christmas. And I read a little bit of it and I was enjoying it, and I still am enjoying it. But I spend that much time watching films, watching TV shows, podcasting, tweeting, flipping website articles, all that sort of stuff, that I never get enough time to sit and read a book. I love buying books, as you can see, but I don't read them. So one of the things I decided to start doing this week in anticipation for going right into 2026 is to read more. So I've read like that much of the Al Pacino book. It's really good. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not at the point yet where Al has started being in movies. So I'm at that whole bit. Normally it's my least favourite part of books when it talks about them being a kid, or they go to college, or well, Al didn't, but they go to like a drama school, and you're like, let's get to the part where you're in The Godfather, and you're in Scarface and all that type of stuff. I hope there's a whole chapter about Jack and Jill. Hope there isn't. But it's a fascinating book so far, and I am planning on reading more of this book as the year plays out, and then also going into next year as well. I do want to start reading more, so I'm sacrificing some. Sorry, I got dust in my eye from that book. That's because I haven't read it, and it's fired off dust. It's not really. It's coincidental dust. Damn it. So I do want to read more, because I've got this whole list of books that I've bought that I've never even opened. So I will be starting to give you a little bit of book reports, plus watching Lydia's YouTube channel where she goes through her books. Shout out to Lydia and Chris. It kind of makes me sad that I have this big shelf of books, but I don't read them. So there's my book recommendation: Al Pacino, Sonny Boy, which is out now. Do check it if you're a big fan of Al Pacino. So I've been doing that. So far so good. Video game wise, I've used the Portal a little bit more this week, the PlayStation Portal. I'm still very much enjoying the PlayStation Portal. I'm learning that some games are better than others on the Portal. So I'll give you an example. We were playing Crash Bandicoot, the first one, on the Portal, and we were struggling. I mean, we were using the fact that it's on a PlayStation Portable as the excuse for why we were so bloody terrible at that game. There may be other reasons why we're so terrible at that game, but I find that playing Crash Bandicoot on the bigger TV, so the 65-inch with the DualSense joypad, did seem easier. Don't get me wrong, we still sucked and didn't get very far, but we sucked a little bit less on the big TV. Whereas something like Call of Duty doesn't really bother me. I mentioned it before, where I actually got a higher score on the Portal than I did on the big TV, which was interesting. I've played some Stray on that. Now, the benefits to playing on a big TV in a game like Stray is that you're looking at a 65-inch screen, so when it's kind of like you've got to explore this landscape and find something, obviously it's easier to find if you're looking at a 65-inch screen than if you're looking at an 8-inch screen. But so far I'm really, really enjoying the Portal. I haven't tried Gran Turismo 7. I don't think that will be any good, because as I mentioned before, let's pretend this is a DualSense controller that I'm holding in my hand here. With GT7, you tilt it, so you're driving. Obviously, your screen's not moving, but your hands are, so it feels like a steering wheel. However, if I'm going to be playing this on a Portal, this is no longer a joypad. This is now a PlayStation Portal. Then if I'm tilting it, my head's going to end up going like that. I'm going to give myself whiplash. So I may test Gran Turismo 7 out on the Portal, but so far I'm thinking that will not be great. I think with the Portal, I think it will be one of those things that I don't use as much as I'd like to, not because of anything against it, but just because of it. I think it'll be something that sits next to my bed, and when I'm convalescing from my pipe changes, I'll get onto that in a bit, and I'm laid up for like a couple of days, I think that's when the Portal will come into play, pun intended. But for £199 or 179 if you grabbed it in a sale, it's a really good piece of kit. So I am impressed with the PS Portal. Chris from Canada, Chris from NRX, Chris is NRX. Chris from Canada, that's your new name. He's got one. Now he went for the black one. I just went for the white one because my PlayStation's white and this console is like £10 cheaper than a black one. I'm like, well, it still does the same thing, so give me the cheaper one. So I went for the cheaper one. It does match the colour of my PS5. So far, very, very impressed. The one thing that I've not quite worked out how to do yet is imagine I have the PS Portal here now next to me while I'm podcasting, and I decide that I want to play some games that are on my PlayStation 5. I haven't worked out how to manually switch my PlayStation on using the PS app or the PS Remote Play app so that I don't have to go downstairs and switch it on and then come back upstairs and then connect it to the Portal. So there probably is a way, I think, but I just haven't worked that out, or I can just remotely switch it on without having to go downstairs. I don't really want to leave my PlayStation on sleep mode all the time. Although maybe that is the solution, I'm not sure. So that's the one thing I've not quite worked out how to do yet. I would love to be able to live stream from it, but I don't think you can do that. And you can play online with it, obviously, but live streaming to the YouTube channel or something, not quite sure. But because I haven't played it enough to know every single bell and whistle that the thing has. But so far, the PS Portal does get my thumbs up. What else have I watched? Well, a couple of documentaries. I have a list. The reason I did that is I have a list behind me with the things that I've watched. And to be honest, this week is not a massive list because I don't know why. Because just is. I guess, is it run up to Christmas? Is it I just can't be bothered? It's probably a mix of both, to be fair. But I haven't really watched a huge lot. We did sit down last night, so Annette and I are doing this watch through of all the film and TV adaptations of Stephen King. Kind of like we're doing with the Disney classics, but we're sort of running those concurrently, and we decided let's do a Stephen King one. So we started off with Carrie, which we watched a couple of weeks back. Then it was Salem's Lot, which we watched last week. So the 3-hour version, not the 2-hour version, the one with David Soul in it. Still a creepy film. I can't imagine what people sort of thought about that when it was on TV. I think there was probably a lot of people wetting themselves, especially when the kid shows up at the window scratching at the glass. So people who watch The Lost Boys, yep, that came from Salem's Lot. And then last night, the next film that we had to watch was Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is a film I remember seeing as a kid, or rather I remember seeing the still images as a kid, and there was always the image of Jack leaning against the bar talking to Lloyd. There was obviously the very famous "He Was Johnny, head through the hole in the doorway with the axe" type thing. And then there was the still shot of the two girls and Danny on the trike. And I remember seeing those a lot in, I don't know which magazine it was, but it'd be like a Starburst or a Starlog or a Fangoria or something like that. Film Review, that was a magazine. And I remember seeing it, and then I didn't see the film probably till like 83 ish, maybe, I think. And I liked it, and I still do. And it's kind of weird with The Shining. It's become, um, I don't want to say acceptable, but it's become more common for people to go, the book's better. Now, I've never read the book. And so it's because there is another version of The Shining, which is a better version of the book. So the 1997 version, or 96, by Mick Garris, Stephen King, is a better version of the Shining book than the Kubrick thing. But that doesn't make Kubrick's The Shining a bad film. It just makes it not a great adaptation of a book. Same argument can go towards The Running Man. The Arnold Schwarzenegger one is, I love it. I think it's great. It is in my top 250 films of all time. But it's not a good adaptation of the Richard Bachman Running Man. And then people are watching the Edgar Wright Running Man and saying, I like the original one with Arnie. Well, it's a crazy argument. It's a different argument. The Edgar Wright one is an adaptation of a book. The Arnie one was originally going to be Christopher Reeve, and then got totally rejigged around when Arnie came on board, and then it became a Schwarzenegger movie rather than an adaptation of the Richard Bachman book. It's all very complicated, isn't it? And so with The Shining, the Kubrick one, I'm going to call it Kubrick's Shining. It's a great film. Why is it a great film? I think it's got to be because of Jack Nicholson's performance. Also because of Shelley Duvall's performance. I think she is. Most people talk about Nicholson's performance in that, but without Shelley Duvall's sort of beaten down, exhausted, I don't know how much more of this I can cope type characterisms, then you don't get as much out of that film as you would. Of course, Danny Lloyd's great in it, but it's Nicholson's performance is amazing. I think the way the film is shot is incredible. Always great to see Scatman Crothers, and it's kind of strange watching it, having watched Welcome to Derry, or a few episodes of that, because that character features in the Welcome to Derry TV show, and so you kind of more about Scatman Crothers' character, Halloran. Forgot his name there for a second. You know more about that after having watched Welcome to Derry. So that was the first time I'd gone back and watched The Shining since starting watching the new It TV series, which I am enjoying the new It TV series. I see a lot of discourse online, but it's the internet, discourse is everywhere. But it's a good series. It's a slow burning series, but to be fair, that's what I'm fine with that from a TV series. So get over yourself, grumpy people. Watch it or don't watch it. Who cares? People are too grumpy online. It's December. Cheer up. So yeah, we watched The Shining. It was part of the 4K Warner Brothers box set that I have, which is an incredible box set. There is an unboxing video of that on this channel, or on the Front Page of Screen YouTube channel if you happen to be listening to audio. It's a very, very solid, well put together physical media box set of Warner classics. May talk about that in the future. And I wanted to make sure that the version of The Shining that was in there was the longer version, so the 2 hours and 23-minute version, not the 119-minute version that Americans got. I think I do own both versions because I have a single disc of The Shining, but I also have this one that's included in the 4K. The one we watched last night has the extra 24 minutes worth of footage littered throughout the movie, so there's some extra stuff at the job interview, there's some extra scenes where Halloran's talking to Danny, and there's a few extra scenes or a few extra clips where Halloran is making his way back to the Overlook to check on Shelley, Jack and Danny. So it's a better version. Why would you not watch the longer version? I've seen both versions over the years, and I quite like the longer one. Great film. So I do like The Shining. I think it's great. I got a bit mixed up because I was trying to explain to Annette that at the beginning, some of the scenes of the, the helicopter flying over, doing the whole fly past thing, was from Blade Runner. Got that mixed up. Some shots from Blade Runner were from The Shining, so I kind of got my years mixed up. I obviously can't tell the difference between 1982 and 1980. But I got there in the end, and before the film had finished. So yeah, The Shining. We've watched that. I watched a documentary, John Candy, I Like Me, which is on Amazon Prime. I kind of knew what to expect on that because I'd seen some trailers, and it's John Candy, and John Candy's great, and we were going to see lots of John Candy clips and hear lots of stories about him, and it is as good as you hope it is. Makes you want to go back and watch a lot of the John Candy films. So I would highly recommend that. It isn't as gut wrenching as, say, the Christopher Reeve Superman documentary, which that will like have you in bits, but it does get you very nostalgic for John Candy movies. So I'd highly recommend that one out. We sort of shifted gears up a little bit the night after that, and we went on to Netflix. More about them in a bit. And watched Kevin Hart Act My Age, which is 1 hour comedy stand up. I like Kevin Hart. I think he is what he is. I think he's very, very funny. And so it was great to just sit down and just watch him do his stand up bit about how you get to a certain age in life, and all he talk about his injuries and health. And yeah, I can relate to that. Um, and so we watched that, laughed our arse off. Brilliant. Just sometimes you need some comedy in your life. And it just so happens the comedy we chose was conversations about how everybody's falling to bits. So, there you go. What else have I watched? Let's have a look. I Swear. There we go. So, the British film that came out this year called I Swear, which is trying to sum it up. It's about a guy who is based on a true story, and it's about a guy who, at a very early age, developed Tourette's syndrome. Now, Tourette's syndrome is the thing, for those not familiar, it's where you have tics, and you sort of, your body will just shudder, and then it can progress into just noises, and then it can progress into full on swearing and racism and sexism, and just sort of conversation you don't want to shout around the table at grandma's Christmas party. Um, Really, really good film. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It is a drama, but my god, there's some really funny bits in it. I don't know if you're supposed to laugh at some of these. I think you are, but it just sort of relieves the tension in there. There's a extremely funny scene where the young lad is on a first date in a cinema, and the girl's mum is there as chaperone as well, and he gets one of these tics that just makes him say something. And yeah, it's it's very, very funny. You feel for the guy, but my god, it was hysterical. So I Swear deserves, give it all the awards. It's really, really good. It's heartwarming. It's funny. It's serious, so it's not a comedy, but there are some funny bits in it. It's very well acted. Great to see Peter Mullen in there. I will happily watch anything that Peter Mullen's in. I'm a big fan of that guy's work. Um, Shirley Henderson's in there as well. So I would check that out. Check out I Swear. So that is worth watching. Wild Style. I don't know if I talked about Wild Style, which is a film from 1982. I really should keep a list of films that I've talked about in the previous podcast. So if I have overlapped a little bit, I do apologise. Wild Style, I think I have talked about that. Is a film that on paper is really not something that I would watch. It's it features breakdancing, it features graffiti, it features rap music. I don't really know anything about any of those three things. However, this film, which feels documentary-ish but isn't documentary-ish, just fascinated me from the first few minutes. I'm fascinated by early 80s and 70s New York. Not a place I've ever been at that time period. Been there since. Love that city. But to sort of see people and certainly see something that was shot at that time, just fascinating. Really, really good. And so much so when I finished the film, I didn't rewind it because I'm not watching it on VHS, for God's sake. I pressed stop, went back to the menu, and started watching the film again, but with the director and producer's commentary on it. So I could just learn a little bit more about the film. This is why physical media is great, because there's all these extra features and you can learn more about a movie if you choose to. I did a poll on social media earlier on this. Well, it wasn't a poll, it was more a question. And I'm like, what special features does everybody like on a disc? And most people were quite nice. I was expecting most people to come back going, I don't bother buying discs anymore. Because a lot of people have just gone pure digital. And people were coming back with commentaries and making ofs and blooper reels. And the funniest comment I saw was, I like interactive menus and scene access, which, for those of you who were around at the beginning of DVD, they were listed as special features. What special features do you get? You get widescreen, you get scene access, and you get an interactive menu. Brilliant. Let me buy that one, shall I? Jesus, terrible special features. But it was there was a nice mix of special features. Now, me personally, my two favourite ones are feature-length making-ofs. Pretty much anything by Charles de Lauzirika. He's amazing, that guy. He does like 3.5 hour making-ofs. Fantastic. So check out like Prometheus, Exodus, Gods and Kings, the Alien box sets. There's a really good one on Transformers 2. Black Hawk, he's done Blade Runner, Dangerous Days, absolutely amazing. Anything that guy has done, check it out because it's great work. So the feature length making ofs I absolutely love. And I also do like an audio commentary, especially if the audio commentary is done by people involved in the film. I'm not a massive fan of those done by critics or podcasters or people who, they can still be interesting, but I would rather hear people tell stories about what it was like to make those movies. Personal preference. I know there is a place for the critic chat tracks, and I would rather have a critic chat track on a disc than not have an audio commentary at all. So it's whatever's available, I guess. But it was interesting with that, and with Wild Style, which is now out on Arrow. There's tons of extras. There's like multiple commentaries. I think like 3 or 4 commentaries, maybe 4 or 5. And there's making ofs. There's a sneeze coming at some point. So if I do sort of sneeze, I don't like sneezing because it hurts. But that's my year. So if you see me looking awkward, it's because I'm trying not to sneeze. So yeah, there's tons of stuff on that. I'm pretty much all caught up on screener discs except one, which I've got 7 or 8 days to, actually 8 days before it's due out, and that is the Wild Geese. I have the screener discs for that to watch, so at some point this coming week I will be checking out the Wild Geese and all the documentaries. There's like 3 commentaries on that disc, so that's impressive stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm just trying to juggle and have less plates spinning at the minute as the year starts to wind down. For pagescreen.com starts to slow down a little bit. Not so much because I slow down putting the content on there, but we find that around this time of the year, there's not that many films coming out. And so the news stories coming into the site are a little bit less than usual, so it does give you a bit of a breather from that, and it allows you to sort of get ready for 2026. Am I looking forward to 2026? Well, there's another question. Hit and miss really, whether I am. I'm going to have some health stuff going on in 2026, which I'm not necessarily looking forward to. But then again, I've had health things going on in 2025 and 2024. Guess what? They were there whether I looked forward to them or not. So for that side of things, not gonna be yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. But that is most definitely when the PlayStation Portal will come into play, pun intended. So I'm not a huge fan of Christmas. I'm more of a fan of New Year because it allows me to look at things that worked this year, things that didn't work this year, going forward into the new year. What things will I try? What things will I stop? Um, I'm quite enjoying these regular Sunday 1 o'clock ish YouTube lives. I'm still working on the best way to do the technology and how to preserve the viewing hours. So doing it as a vertical, which is that, doesn't work. I mean, I'll get lots and lots of views into the hundreds when I'm doing a live, but those hours do not stick. Give it 2 or 3 days, YouTube just hoiks them back off you, and then you look at your viewing numbers, you're like, where'd they all go? Doing it horizontally, so this way, the way I'm doing it now, I do get less views because it doesn't go into the shorts feed, but any hours that I do, so I've noticed people dropping in and dropping out. I do preserve those hours as far as I know. Now, if I do look next week and I notice that the hours from this have dropped, then the lives may stop being a thing and I may just go back to using Zoom and doing it that way and doing a bit of funky editing. But with this YouTube live, that's why there's no graphics there. That's why I can't put pictures in because I've not quite got to that point yet. My main goal is the audio podcast, which has been running for well over a decade. Hey, John. Afternoon, John. I was wondering if the chat room was working or not, and it's good to see that John Shelton is in there. So it's, yeah, with this whole YouTube livey thing and podcast, I still miss Skype. Skype was so much easier. You boot up Skype, you dial your friends, you put your headset on, you record it, bing, done. Well easy. Skype disappears, creates a whole bunch of silliness. But I try not to get obsessed with YouTube because it can be addictive in the sense that if you get so close to either hitting X amount of subscribers or X amount of viewing hours and you lose a few, why have I lost a few? Why are they watching this video? Why are they not watching that video? It can kind of drive you a bit round the bend. We have I nearly said wonderful cat, but I'll just say an average cat called Oscar, who we set his own YouTube channel up. So it's Oscar the Famous Cat. Just for a bit of a giggle. We're like, you know what, this cat does stupid shit, so let's just film it and we'll put it on YouTube and we'll see what happens. So we bought him this year an advent calendar for cats. And we did so it's one video per day that we're doing on this cat channel. And the first 2 or 3 days, we're getting 1,000 views as a short, which is on its own depressing. I wish I had 1,000 views on the short. So there was that. And then there'll be a day in between. So day 4 and day 5, we'll get 3 views. You're like, what? It's the same. Effectively, it's the same video. It's like, here you go, Oscar. Open this little advent calendar door. Here's some biscuits inside the treat thing. And he'll eat them or he won't eat them. And you're like, why does one video get 1,000 views and the other one gets 4? So and that applies to human YouTube channels as well. I'm sure John knows what I'm talking about. Where you can you come up with an idea for a video and you go, actually, that could work. That could work. Let me start building that video. So you build it and you put a bit of editing work into it and you go, that's fine. You look at it and you go, that's a good video. Yep. Not the best video I've ever seen, but it's a good video. So you put it onto YouTube and crickets. Not a lot happens. You're like, what the hell? You've used all the right hashtags, you've got a reasonable thumbnail, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. You've shared it everywhere. Nothing. And then a day after, you go out and you see a pile of leaves on the floor that look like Jesus. And you go, oh, let me just take a quick video of that. And you put that on, it goes crazy. So it's the videos you put lots of work into, yeah, forget it. And the ones that you sort of think are quite flippant, You go, ah, sod it, I'll do a quick video. They go crazy. It's weird. I did, and it's something that, because of the health crappiness that's going on with me at the minute, my focus is off. It has been for like a year and a half, to be fair, so it's not a new thing. Where um, there's things that I want to do. And I know, do you know what? There's a few unboxing videos that I want to get done. I've still got the one for the complete version of the Shield to get done. And I've got all the notes for it because I've been through all the special features. And I just need to sit down and just do the damn video and get it done. But for some reason, I'm like, can't. I'll do it later. So my sort of focus to do things is a little bit off, which is partly why I do these 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon podcast. It's just kicking myself up the rear end, going, just do something, you lazy shit. So there's that. And I can't remember where I was going, so my focus is so off, I've forgotten what the bloody question was. But yeah, there's a few things that I want to get. Oh yeah, that was it. So there's a few videos that I want to do, but then other times I'll just think, and the perfect example of that is a few years ago, I picked up off the Arrow sale the 2-disc set. There was a 3-disc set, but I didn't manage to get that one. There was a 2-disc set of Kevin Reynolds' Waterworld. So I picked it up, and on it was the 3-hour version of the movie, which I'd never seen. So the Ulysses cut, they call it. And so I watched it, and I really liked it. And I just thought, I'm just going to do a YouTube video where I just sit down, talk about this thing, and go, hey, there's a 3-hour version, and there's extra scenes, and it's better, and blah, blah, blah. And I did this video, and the damn thing's still going. Years later, it's had thousands of views. And you're like, why am I not doing that for lots of films that I've seen then? And I don't know is the answer. I really don't. So it's like you'll look at one video and you'll go, well, that worked. Because I've done a few review videos and you go, actually, that could be a thing. People like this on my channel. That's amazing. Should I do more? And you go, yeah, absolutely. Do more. And you're like, yeah, I can't be bothered though. It's horrible. I hate it. I hate losing my focus. So one of my 2026 things is to try and get my focus back. So I'm getting there. Hence things like reading more, playing a bit more video games, just not sitting there and staring at films that I have no real interest in watching. And so I'm trying to sort of get the plates that are spinning. John is familiar with the spinning plate analogy. I've used that. I think I used that last time he was in the chat room. Is just to make sure that the plates I've got spinning are the plates that I want to have spinning, and make sure I don't end up with ankles full of broken cutlery. So I have a few unboxing videos to do, not tons. It's been a weird year. It sounds like it's the last podcast of the year, but it's really not. I've probably got about another 4 or 5 podcasts to do. Next week, I suspect might be Stu Miller. It may be Chris next weekend. Maybe John Fouts on Thursday. Not sure. But there won't be too many more of these solo ones. I'm not a huge fan of doing the solo ones. I know some people like them, which is fine. I'm not saying that you should dislike them. But they're not as easy to do as chatting to a co-host. It's always easier to chat with somebody else than it is to just talk to a screen or a camera, wherever the bloody camera is on this iPad. So, 2 subjects left. Which one do I go for? We're gonna talk Netflix. Gonna get that one out of the way first. So, I don't know how I feel about that. Well, I do. I'm not happy about it. So Warner Brothers Discovery, for the past however long, has been putting it out there that they are up to be bought out. So, hey, anybody want to buy us? Paramount Skydance came out first, and they were like, yeah, we want to buy you for like it was worked out about 43 million, 43 billion dollars, I think was the number, give or take. And then Warner Brothers Discovery went, nice try, we're not going to bother with that. Come back when you've got a proper bid. So then in the meantime, Comcast Universal came out and went, hey, we'd quite like to buy Warner Brothers Discovery as well. So WBD went, okay, send your bid in. And then Netflix came out of the woodwork. Of course they did. And they're like, well, we'd quite like to buy WBD too. And Warner Brothers went, let's start a bidding war, which is exactly what Warner Brothers Discovery wanted. They wanted a bidding war. They didn't want one company, one entity trying to just buy them out for a number. They wanted everybody to start pitting themselves against each other, similar way to the Disney Fox acquisition. So obviously the internet and podcasters and websites and people like me were all having conversations about, oh, who would you like to buy Warner Brothers? My answer would always be I would rather Warner Brothers stayed Warner Brothers and didn't get gobbled up by yet another company. However, that was never going to happen because of the sheer amount of money that was going to be changing hands. And then earlier this week, it came out that Netflix were exclusively going to be buying Warner Brothers Discovery, which just, it either broke my heart a little bit or really annoyed me. One of the two. Either answer is fine. I do have Netflix. We have it as part of a promotional offer on our Sky internet, so we get it thrown in for free. I'm not a fan of Netflix, which doesn't mean there's not a lot of shows on there that I enjoy watching. I do. I'm just not a massive fan of streaming in general. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved, air quotes, in the film industry for decades. Obviously first as a customer and somebody who would go hang out at the cinema once a week, but then somebody who worked in a video store, owned a video store, and then who sort of skirts around nowadays doing a bit of publicity for films and generally doing these sort of podcasts where I talk about the movie thing. So I know enough, but I don't know everything. But I know enough to know that Netflix buying Warner Brothers Discovery it's good for one person or good for one entity, and that is good for Netflix. So for Netflix, great move. Well done. Well done, Netflix. For everybody else, though, it's gonna suck. And that does not mean being all doomy gloomy like a lot of the internet is. I've seen people on the internet going, "Oh, that means next year our Netflix bill is going to be like $60." No, it ain't. It's not going to be $60. Oh, it's going to go up to this price. It's going to go up to that price. It will go up because streaming platforms go up all the time anyway. But it's not going to go up that much. There's got to be a cut-off point where people go, screw this, I'm out. My point on the streaming platform is normally around a tenner. So if a platform is more than 10 quid, I'm out. I'm not paying that for one channel. Forget it. At the minute, we have Netflix included as part of the Sky thing, as I mentioned. We also have Paramount Plus as part of that promotion. £3.49 a month for Disney I'm paying. That is due to run out on the 14th of January. And I've just signed up for 50% off on Apple for the next 6 months. So I'm not paying any more than $4.99 per streaming platform. I will cannibalize all the content that I need to on that platform, and then once the special offer starts to run out, I'll get the hell out of there. And then by that time, there'll be a special offer on something else. I don't know what else there will be, but there'll be something. No way am I paying like 50 quid or 20 or whatever for a streaming platform. Forget it. It's not happening. I'd much rather spend it on a really big pizza or lots of drinks while I'm podcasting. So Warner Brothers being bought by Netflix sucks, and it sucks for various reasons. I think it's going to be bad for filmmakers. I think it's going to be fine for the consumer to a certain extent, and by the consumer I mean the people who just put Netflix on and watch anything. You know, I just want to watch something, don't really care. I think for sort of huge cinema fans, not good. It is yet another major studio that we're losing. Fox is producing less films than it was when it was 20th Century Fox, and now it's under the Disney umbrella. the whole theatrical thing, Netflix are just gonna. I mean, we've seen things this week where Netflix are saying we are committed to showing Warner Brothers movies in the theatrical environment. Just to paraphrase, yeah, I bet you are, because there will be contracts in place from filmmakers who have films at Warner Brothers who are like, well, when we sign these contracts, it says we get a theatrical release. Absolutely. So Netflix are not going to screw around with that yet. And also bearing in mind that this acquisition won't even be done for like a year, maybe a year and a half, if there's any objections, and there's a few of those popping on the woodwork. So this isn't a case of you log into your Netflix on Monday and you're like, oh look, Welcome to Derry and The Last of Us is now on Netflix. You're not going to see any real changes for at least 12 months. Other than the usual changes you get, like a little bit of a price increase and all that sort of stuff. So, but however, once these contractual things, I was chatting to Annette about it this morning, and if you've made a movie now and you're signed up at Warner Brothers and part of your contract is I'm getting my film shown in the theatre, then you will still get your movie shown in the theatre. It's great. Let's go forward like 18 months, 2 years, and then you go to Netflix and you're like, I'd like to make a movie, please, with you. I haven't made it yet, but I'd like to make a movie. And then Netflix is going to go, not a problem. And you go, right, I'd like it to be shown in theatres, please. Netflix could turn around and go, yeah, no, we're not going to do that, because there's nothing contractual in place before they took over. So I think we're going to see a lot of filmmakers getting a bit narked and hopefully go into another studio. I love Warner Brothers, I really do. It's like I have the best box set downstairs ever from Warner Brothers, or featuring Warner Brothers films. They're great. I hate the fact that Netflix is going to be gobbling this company up. Then there's the theatrical windows, which they've been shrinking for 25 years. I remember a time when I was a kid, yes, my memory does go that far back, when you would wait years for a film to come out, so it would show at the cinema for months, sometimes even longer. And then eventually it would come out on VHS, Betamax, whatever it is. And then like 2-3 years after that, you would see it on TV. Now some films, a month. You know, people are conditioned to go, well, I'll skip that at the cinema for various reasons, and I'll just wait and watch it at home. The window at the minute is around 45 days on average. I think that's too short personally, but Netflix will make it shorter. I think you will see films getting like a 2 week theatrical window. The Peaky Blinders movie is coming out in March 2026. That theatrical window is, if I remember rightly enough, that's like 2 weeks, which maybe for a film like Peaky Blinders is possibly enough, but if you don't manage to go to the cinema for 2 weeks, or 2 weekends even, maybe week 1 you're working, maybe week 2 you gotta get babies there. Sucks. Film's gone, watch on Netflix. People are going to become even more conditioned to not bother going to theatres. I don't know how many films each year Warner Brothers Discovery released. That's probably a number that can get worked out, but let's just say that's 20 films or 50 films. That is that number less going into cinemas. Now, obviously, there's more than 50 films coming out each year, so there will not really be a shortage of movies going into cinemas. But kind of sucks that Netflix are going to start chipping away even more at this theatrical window. I don't like it. I mean, Warner Brothers were one of in fact, they were the company who sort of instigated the destruction of independent video stores 20 years ago. And I could say that because I was there running a video store, and I voluntarily closed mine down because I could see where everything was headed. I'm like, you know what, I can either get out now with some money, or I can stick around for another year or two and not have any money. So I opted to just get the hell out in 2003. Now that all started off, those who aren't too familiar, it was Universal that sort of dipped their toes in the water first with the release of Gladiator. Now they brought Gladiator out. I'm sure it was after summer, so it's like October or something, or maybe August ish. So basically, they brought it out on rental DVD, and video stores would have to pay, I think, like £35 per DVD for Gladiator. So that's how much a rental copy of Gladiator cost. Video store owners like me, £35 each. Now this had no extras on it. There was no commentary. There was no making ofs. There was no deleted scenes. It was a single disc edition of Gladiator, £35. Something like 30 days after, they released Gladiator, the 2 disc set edition, straight into retail stores for like £12.99. So everybody, you had probably 30 days in a video store to make your money out of these rental copies before the retail copy came out. Once the retail one came out, ain't nobody renting your one for £2.75 or £2.50 or whatever you charged, because they were like, well, hang on a minute, I've just seen the one in Woolworths or wherever, or HMV for like £12.99, and that's got all extras on it. And back in those days, people loved extras because DVD was a new thing. Nowadays, a lot of people don't tend to bother with extras, but back then they were like, oh my god, commentaries, making ups, deleted scenes, this is amazing. I want to watch that one. Why am I going to pay like a quarter of the price of that disc that I can keep compared to that one, which I only get for one night? Screw it, I'm going to go buy the retail one. So there was that was the first one. But then Warner Brothers brought out the big guns. And with films like Ocean's 11, Training Day, The Time Machine, Collateral Damage, The Adventures of Pluto and Nash. Amazing. I've never seen it. So they brought those out. And they made it worse than Universal did, because they released films day and date. So video stores would have to buy these rental copies of the Warner titles for like £25 each, 25, 30 quid, or whatever it was. But on the same day, Joe Public could walk into HMV, Woolworths, wherever, and buy these same movies for £12.99. But they were designed different. I mean, the film itself was the same, but it had not for rental all over the retail one. It had rental copy right across the flash of the rental copies. And so the consumer, the customer, the film fan, would instantly know whether this was a retail one or whether it was a rental one. Now, the reason for the difference in the covers were so that there were certain people from Warner's who would sniff around video stores and who would look to see if you were stocking retail copies of their movies. And if they did, apparently they would come after you with like, legal sledgehammers, shall we say. So there was a big sort of craziness over that, because Joe Public didn't want to pay £2.75 for one night for a film that they could pay £12.99 for and keep. Why would they? I wouldn't buy it. And so there was a big uprising amongst a lot of the independent video stores, including mine, where we all just turned around to Warner Brothers and went, screw you, we're just not going to buy your films. And that lasted for, I can't remember exact time it lasted, but it lasted months and months, where people were like, screw you. A lot of video stores did do the dodgy thing where they just went out, bought like the retail copies and just sort of rented them out under the counter. Do you want to buy do you want to rent the Time Machine? I never went down that route because I didn't want Warner's getting any money anyway from me. So I'm like, just screw them. And eventually I think that caused a lot of independent video stores to go, we're out, because other studios started doing the same. I think Fox did it. I remember High Crimes, the Morgan Freeman film, coming out, and I remember that was flash banded with the rental copy and stuff. So it just pretty much, Enemy at the Gates was another one, which I think was also Fox. Good film. Both good films. And that pretty much started the downslide of the rental stores, leaving only Blockbuster as the main sort of chain here in the UK anyway, And then eventually Blockbuster just went and died, and we don't have those anymore. So what happened to independent video stores because of these crazy changes is potentially something that's going to happen to cinemas because of the Netflix acquisition to Warner's. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it at all. I don't know what it's going to do to Warner Physical Media. I'd mentioned a couple of times in this podcast that I have this really fancy Warner Brothers box set downstairs. I don't know if you're going to see those in 10 years' time where Warner Brothers, Netflix, Warner Brothers, whatever they want to call themselves, are releasing films on physical media. I would love to see some of the Netflix titles come out on Blu-ray and DVD, but unfortunately the market for those is dwindling. And in 5 years' time it may dwindle some more. I don't know. Who knows? So I'm not a fan. I see some people reporting stories that like WGA and the Directors Guild of America are going to try and get it blocked. I don't know how successful that's going to be because it's not really a monopoly, is it? I've seen some people saying, oh, it's bad when these studios are becoming even bigger. Netflix isn't really a film studio, is it? It's not a theatrical entity. It's a streaming channel. It's a TV channel that is buying a film studio. And we've heard promises that Netflix would say, oh, we'll do this and we'll do that. I just don't know if I believe them. But time will tell. In an ideal world, Netflix would realize how much money there is in theatrical box offices in the short term. I mean, we've just had Zootopia 2 come out and it made like $500 million in its first week. Why would Netflix not want to do that with some films? And then if that Zootopia 2 then drops onto a streaming platform, more people are going to go, oh, I've heard about that. That made a fortune. I'm going to watch it. But Netflix seem to be a very, very stupid company. And they just make the weirdest decisions. They're very algorithm based. They're very, how many people are watching in week one? Oh, look, it's dropped off on week two. We'll just cancel it and we won't bring it back. They kind of suck. I'm not a massive streaming platform fan, in case you couldn't tell. So we'll see how that plays out. None of it is going to really play out for another 12 months. So there's a whole, this time next year we'll be sitting having a conversation going, oh, apparently this deal's going to go through. Until then, it's not worth getting annoyed about. But I think it's a bad idea. I think it'll have a bad outcome for film fans, bad outcome for filmmakers, a terrible outcome for theatrical chains. Not good. Not good at all. What else? What else is going on? Health-wise, not a lot for me. I'm going to start rounding up soon, just having a bit of a waffle. No news on my operation thing. That's whatever, who knows. That's probably going to drag on until at least February. So at the minute I'm just sort of ticking over, just doing various bits and pieces. I'll have not great days, and then I'll have days that aren't as crap as that, which is the sort of day that I'm on at the minute. We woke up this morning, went to a car boot sale, flea market, whatever. Didn't really find anything I wanted, just mostly crap that was there, to be fair. Came back, I'm like, oh, very sluggish today. I have low energy quite a lot of the time now, which mentally and physically. But that's why I like to do things like this, to just kick myself up the rear end. And then if I sit down later on and do not a lot, then I go, well, at least I've done some stuff today. I do want to do what my cat is doing, which is just curled up in a ball, having a sleep. So Oscar is keeping me company today. Do check out Oscar the Famous Cat on YouTube. You'll find some crazy stuff. We shot some videos this morning for his channel. The thing is with a cat video is you generally can't prepare for it. Like an unboxing video or a podcast, you can make some notes and you can set your camera up and go, yeah, that'll do. But with a cat video, you can't. You've just got to be there when they do stupid shit or cute stuff and go, let me just capture that moment. And we saw a couple of those this morning, which we're like, that's quite handy that we've got that on film. So we've got some new videos to go up on Oscar the Famous Cat on his YouTube channel. He's currently on 69 subscribers, so he's getting there. Just a bit of fun, that channel. There's not a lot of work going into it. I tend to put most of my work into this channel or the Star Wars channel, the Unofficial Cantina. And Annette puts her work into her mini brands unboxing channel as well. This afternoon we're going to watch Hercules, the Walt Disney one, and just eat some food. And just, I'm hoping I'm going to have a better day tomorrow. There's something I'm expecting to arrive tomorrow. Hopefully that will arrive tomorrow. Don't need to go into what that is, but you know, fingers crossed. Make my week a lot easier. And other than that, all's quiet. So I've seen people dipping in and dipping out of the chat. Well, not the chat, but the actual viewing numbers. So thank you to everybody who's watched. Thank you, John, for letting me know that you've been in the chat. I do appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. I am looking forward to scheduling some end-of-year podcasts with John Fouts, Stu Miller, and Chris Lagrest. So there'll be a few shows coming out in December once we've sort of worked out the scheduling. Finished Tulsa King, which was good. I was just thinking I've got Tulsa King to watch today, but no, that's finished. So, you know, wait till that comes back. So I'm just going to chill out this afternoon. I might play some more Lego Horizon Adventures, which was the free game, or one of the free games on PS Plus this month. Not a bad game. It's not great. It's very, very arcadey, and you can just sort of sit there in your armchair and just play it, and not really, you don't have to think about anything. The combat's not too hard. It's not the best Lego game I've seen. Certainly not, I don't know if it's the worst, but it's one of my least favourite ones. But it's a free game, so what do I care? And then I'm going to try next year to play more video games, to do more videos, to read more books, and to relax more. So I hope that everybody has had a nice Sunday so far, and I hope the rest of it gets even better. It's all uphill for you now that I'm going to be finishing talking in a minute. So what have you got to complain about? 7th of December, we can make it to Boxing Day, can't we? Let's get this Christmas thing out the way, and then get on to Boxing Day. Yes, we can do it. But thanks everybody who's listened, who's watched, who will listen on the audio feeds. I do appreciate it. There's a lot of stuff that we can all do nowadays: games, books, music, etc., etc. And I do appreciate the fact that you take some time out of your day just to listen to me rant, rave, waffle, and just talk crap for an hour. So I do appreciate it. And I will chat at you soon. So take care and bye for now.